Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Well, what a wild week it's been. Some coins in the top 10 down over 50%. We've had a strong bounce overnight after we saw some signs of capitulation over the weekend. I did that hour-long live stream for you guys, so no market update yesterday, but we're going to talk about all the fundamentals and the news, tie that together to see if we can get a clearer picture of exactly where Bitcoin is heading. To start off with, guys, we are going to be publishing more of these written articles. We've got a lot of independent contributors and we have push notifications now. So when we put out a breaking news article, make sure you get that notification on your desktop on nuggetsnews.com.au. Into the macro data though, so starting in our own backyard, we've been talking about the Australian housing market a little bit, and when the new numbers in from Martin North at Digital Finance Analytics saying that the number of listings is up nearly 20% year on year. So a lot of people are now trying to sell their house. This is starting to reflect in all the stats that we're seeing. So auction clearance rates, last year everyone wanted to buy, competing against Chinese bidders, overseas bidders, heaps of people flooding the streets for these auctions. And now we're seeing, the percentage change really falling off the cliff into the negative. So we don't want to paint a doom and gloom scenario here, but we do need to be mindful of this data. And we're going to continue to talk about this and have Martin and John Adams on the channel again, because we're starting to see these cracks appear. When people can no longer afford their mortgage, they cut back on other little things. Something like private health insurance, and we're seeing the number of people exiting their private health insurance plans. They can't afford that $20 or $50 a week anymore. So houses under financial stress, it's something that Martin and I spoke about in that interview, and we'll continue to cover that for you guys. Something else interesting that I read today. So Adrian from Crypto Tax Oz, that you guys may have done your tax return through, he posted a great little piece today about some of Label's proposals, and I want to start off by saying that I don't really favour one political party over another. I actually think that the two-party system locks heads and nothing ever gets done. But a lot of people are aware of negative gearing, and there's some proposed changes to that. Australia's one of the only countries in the world that even has such thing as negative gearing, giving people a break that are losing money. It is really a crazy system. But I wasn't aware about this capital gains tax proposal to halve the discount. So rather than getting a 50% discount when you make money on an asset you've invested in after 12 months, they want to cut that down to 25%. So if our crypto portfolios go really well over the next few years, they want you paying, double in tax. So I hadn't heard of this. Thanks for that, Adrian. That's something that I will keep an eye on and let you guys know if anything else changes. In terms of other macro things going on, I just want everyone to be aware that the US dollar has been strengthening a lot, around 10% over the past 12 months. So we've seen it hurt these emerging market currencies. The Aussie dollar has been weak as well, but keep in mind that this all affects Bitcoin. Anything that's priced in US dollars, gold, oil, all those are hurt by the denominator, which is the US dollar. So as that goes up in value, it's another thing that has been putting downward pressure on all cryptocurrencies priced in US dollars. Into the crypto news now. So IOTA launched plans for removing the coordinator nodes. So if you've watched my video on IOTA I did over a year ago now, we spoke about the tangle and how it just wants to go out in all different directions in the Internet of Things rather than a blockchain that is quite linear. So at this stage, we have these coordinators, which I guess keeping checks and balances is the easiest way you can think of it as throughout the tangle. But they're starting to outline these plans for letting those coordinator nodes, which make it quite centralized in its current state. If we can get rid of those, it's very exciting for IOTA and their technology. So well done to the IOTA team there. On to the big news of the hash wars. So it looks like most of that is behind us. And I did this video for people 3 weeks ago now when Bitcoin Cash was at $630. And I said, all the noobs that are piling into this trade thinking that they're going to have a hard fork and get 2 coins and make lots of money, that is the dumb money. That is not what's going to happen. I think the good trade here is to short this because markets don't like uncertainty. So that trade has turned out to be, a tremendous winner. It's great when the fundamentals and the technicals align and pay off by having a thorough understanding. So well done. I know a lot of you guys took that trade in our members group as well. Bitcoin Cash now down to $190 from $630 3 weeks ago at the time of recording. What's causing this drop? Well, it's a number of things. The battle for the actual Bitcoin Cash name has ended. So we've seen a few exchanges declare the ABC side with Roger Ver and Jihan the winner, and they can have that name and that ticker symbol. Some exchanges are going to continue to label it ABC or BAB or something different. It's just confusing for everyone. But at the same time, we saw Calvin Ayre come out and say, we don't actually want the BCH ticker symbol. We want BSV, or we believe that we're the true Satoshi's vision of Bitcoin. So we don't actually want to be called Bitcoin Cash even. So they've kind of gone their own ways a little bit. There's lots of measures in place now for them to not have to interfere with each other anymore. So I definitely think that all that, which was the talk of the town, everyone was scared, it hit markets at a crucial level and time. I think I said at the time, in a week from now, everyone will have forgotten about this. And here we are a week later, and people have hopefully moved on. Ethereum developers are quietly planning to accelerate the roadmap. So Vitalik has said that he's going to have, less of a dominant figure or role to play in the community, and that's great. Some people say he's a dictator, it's too centralized. There's always two sides to these arguments depending on what camp you're in and what coin you're loyal to. But Ethereum have definitely missed targets in the past. They've been behind on the initial roadmap when they first announced the project. A lot of other coins are finding that good things take time. So they've definitely been more conservative in their estimates about the next hard forks and upgrades, but the developers are sounding quite positive and they want to accelerate that roadmap, and they believe that it's not that far away from getting some serious scaling upgrades which are going to increase that throughput. Bitcoin mining is the next thing we're going to talk about now. So Norway ended its power subsidies, and to be honest, guys, in a free market, I don't necessarily agree that we should be subsidizing power for Bitcoin mining necessarily unless we have surplus power. We want to encourage the use of renewables where, it's green, we're encouraging innovation. One thing that I'm really bullish on that I spoke about in Sydney last Tuesday night at the security token meetup was, think about now we have a company like Power Ledger with the Power token and that software for running renewable energy decentralized grids. Now we have their other token where they can fund renewable energy projects, and I'm going to have Anya on the channel soon to talk about this. But how great would it be where we could fund these projects that are going to mine Bitcoin, and Power Ledger could help make the Bitcoin mining industry the first 100% renewable industry in the world. I think something like that is absolutely amazing. It's a game changer, and we have that in our own backyard. So don't miss that interview I'm going to do with Anya very soon. Gigawatt files for bankruptcy. A large miner that were just setting up. They'd raised around $50 million. There's some rumors going around they've only got $50,000 of assets. I think this was a typo, guys. I think they have a lot more than that on hand. But this is what we're seeing. All these people that outlaid a lot of capital to mine when it was very, very profitable, they're going to go bankrupt, or a percentage of them are, and that is kind of what we're starting to see across the board with stories like this. Now, I don't know if I even believe this. Some of these ASICs that still sell for hundreds of dollars secondhand, being sold for scrap metal by the ton, I'm a bit dubious when I hear headlines like this. I don't think they're that worthless, but either way, the point is that some percentage of miners are no longer profitable to mine at the current price. Now, does that put a floor in the price? Not really, because the difficulty adjusts. So here we see the hash rate, the number of miners that are all mining the Bitcoin chain, and the red line here is the difficulty, and it steps down every 2 weeks if it has to. And as more miners have been dropping offline because they're no longer profitable, the difficulty adjusts downwards. So we can see that here, but I want to show you this other website. So this is diff.cryptothis.com, and this shows us really well the stats of the difficulty. And the next upcoming change, which is due at the current rate of mining, it's going to happen around the 3rd of December, so a few days from now, and the difficulty will adjust down somewhere between 10 and 12%. So that goes to show you that around 10 or 12% of mining hash power is continuing to drop offline because it's no longer profitable. So there's always a new equilibrium that gets formed, and that's roughly every sort of 10 to 14 days, a bit over. It all depends on how often the blocks are being found and the difficulty. But this is a fantastic resource, guys, a great website. So there's a big milestone here for Bitcoin that not many people are even talking about. They're going on track to surpass MasterCard in terms of the amount of value that's been transferred around the Bitcoin network every day. So people acting like Bitcoin's dead, and here we are without even any serious scaling yet, already on track to surpass the amount of money being transferred around the world every day. That is truly amazing to think that we're doing this with a peer-to-peer decentralized cryptocurrency. So prices are crashing. When you read articles like this, it really reinforces the fundamentals, and it's scary to think that with the amount of Lightning nodes that are coming online, that capacity is forever increasing. It hit $2 million recently. All the good news is just getting buried. Nobody is interested. Nobody's reading this stuff. And I certainly think that markets are being smashed down so that the big boys at Mission Control, as I call them, the whales, institutions, whatever it is, they want to scoop this stuff up, and they're the bully in the schoolyard that's holding you upside down and shaking you, trying to get your coins off you at these lower levels. They don't want to pay $20,000. They want to pay $3,000 to line their pockets before the next bull run, where the people that own the coins, that own the media, will all start pushing out good news articles. So this is the worst week we've had since 2013. At one point, it got even worse than that since this article was printed. And in terms of the technicals, we're going to dive into them fairly shortly, but we haven't been oversold on the weekly for 7 years, which is really, really crazy to think how extreme these levels we're getting to, when in my mind, the fundamentals haven't changed that greatly. We spoke about the news articles that upset the market and what's going on. So does Bitcoin deserve to have its worst week in 7 years, in 5 years, depending on what metric you want to look at it? I really don't think so. The real adoption, particularly throughout Africa, continues to rise. I did a fantastic interview this week with Commerce, and they are working hard in East Africa to use blockchain to get more food, to get more rations into the nation more than once a month. It's crazy to think that those crates come in and they're sold out on the first day and they have no supplies for the rest of the month, all because of the lack of financial infrastructure in that country. And Bitcoin and blockchain can disrupt that. Check out that interview if you haven't already. But it's great to see these leaders, these countries coming out pro-blockchain. They know the benefits. They don't have banks in a lot of these countries, and they're going to just completely skip that that middleman of the bank. We're seeing people in high places continue to make the switch into the blockchain industry. Bitfury adding a former SEC commissioner to their advisory board. And as we get these people, that come from these high backgrounds, it just gives them power when they're lobbying or when they're talking to the SEC. Bitfury can say, we're in the know, we're in the gang, we're in the club. All these laws start to work in their favor, the under table deals, whatever you want to call it. But it's all just good for blockchain in the long run to have legitimate people rather than US Congress or SEC be scared of these Wild West companies that they don't know anyone. It's run by the guys on the dark web. That sort of facade that's often portrayed, guys. I really think the industry is really primed and becoming legitimate before that next bull run. We see that here with a bank like Silvergate. So they're planning on IPOing. They serve 483 crypto companies, and they're obviously doing well if they've been in this industry for a number of years now. But this is where other banks will make the switch. In Australia, they've all been giving, local startups and companies that don't argue, as we say in Australia. They don't want to serve them. They don't want to bank them. They don't want to work with them. If you've may have even done a transfer personally. If it's got Bitcoin or crypto in the name, they'll freeze your account. So that's the current stance. As soon as one bank comes out and says, hey, we're highly profitable from working with these guys instead of against them, all of a sudden nobody wants to be first, but then nobody wants to be last. And everything that's happening now suggests that we're getting close to that tipping point. Just this morning, Ohio came out and said that they'll be the first US state to accept Bitcoin for taxes. So do you think a US state is accepting something that they think is going to go to zero, or that they think is a bubble that's popped? Definitely not. And I know that Adam Payton and I have been working hard trying to twist the local government's arm here for months to accept crypto, and it's hopefully closer than we think. Hopefully by the end of next year or even sooner, you'll be able to pay your local bills with Bitcoin. And once governments are on board, again, it just becomes so much more legitimate in the public's eye. Another item that scared the news or the public a little bit this week was BACT being pushed back. So we touched on this a little bit last week. It is January 24. They're saying that it's because of the amount of interest, but whether it was just because crypto markets were having a real hard time of it, and they don't want to open up into that weak sentiment environment. They want to start on a nice positive note, push prices up, get people feeling good about all this. So either way, I think everyone's looking forward to this date next year now. In terms of Google searches, a lot of people were saying that the term Bitcoin was trending up, but I think that could be a bad thing for people searching about Bitcoin, as we see here. So the searches for "is Bitcoin dead" were some of the highest levels they've been in months, and at the top of the list is Australia. Now that's scary to think about. I've spoken before about the number of people per capita that are in crypto in Australia. I think we really are obsessed with our crypto, and to surpass the US in these search terms really shows that we did hit some sort of height in climax and fear over the weekend for these countries that are very heavily involved in crypto. Look at these searches for "is Bitcoin's dead." Crazy. We saw people come out of the woodwork and kick us while we're down or bash crypto. So I tweeted this a year ago about giving Alan Kohler credit. So he used to bash Bitcoin, and then he kept an open mind and learned about it. And now he was been promoting his newsletter to Bitcoin and crypto. I'm not sure if he's still doing that now. Either way, I wanted to try and convert Ross Greenwood and Scott Payton. Now, some of you are saying don't even bother with these guys, but hey, this is a technology that's going to be around. They're going to have to learn about it sooner or later. And as we see here, he came out to say that it's a bubble. It's burst, the year's up, kind of have a bit of a laugh, and old Scott Pate chimed in here, dropping the mic, and then he stopped by my Twitter again this morning to leave another smart remark. But look, each to their own, guys. Just make a mental note of these. We know the Bitcoin Habituary website tells us about all these people that make fun of Bitcoin and have declared it dead, and we certainly saw widespread laughter at the crypto community, and I'm used to being laughed at talking about Bitcoin over the years. Into the price action. So we're at some very important points now. We had this sell-off. I've changed this from my usual 20, 50, 200 to the 12 and 26 period moving average. And Charting Man Dan certainly uses this one, and he's pointed this out a lot, that it really has been acting as support or resistance. So I'm right in here now on this shorter time frame. I'll put my drawings back on because since we had this dump and big volume come in, we have been riding this trend line higher, and we've been at some really crucial levels for a number of reasons, but we've broken out to the upside. And I did a live video again for members last night saying, don't get too excited. Even though this has happened, it's still 50-50. We need a few more other things to happen before we get too excited that the bottom is in. Now, breaking out of this was the first piece of that puzzle. And if we zoom out, let's just take our drawings off again there. The 12 and 26 period are acting as support on the hourly, but it's the 4 hour that they've really run into trouble and dumped each time from. So in the next couple of hours or the next 24 hours, we are going to find out a lot about the strength of this bounce and if it continues higher or if this just gets rejected, as it has several times in the past during this correction. If we look across the board though, There's a few other clues. So let's get those cycle brackets back up. Let's go to the daily chart. One of the things that I did speak about, sorry, I'll just remove that so it's a bit easier to see. One of the things I spoke about was this key date and how cycle brackets can give us these key turning points. So the 24th of November, we did see that capitulation and we are starting to see a push up. We need this push up to continue, and the longer the better. If we can get a right-hand translation and we push up all the way through to the first week of December, that's amazing. I think that really increases the chances the bottom's in. Other coins to look at, Ethereum gave us some good clues in terms of look at the strength, look at this volume that's coming in. Huge volume is another clue that this slightly tips the odds in favor of the bottom being in. And this is the biggest weekly volume we've ever seen on Ethereum. Throughout that entire bull market, throughout these sell-offs, this past week is the biggest ever. So there's some great signs there. A number of coins have had big percentage moves off the lows. I'm not going to go down the list. I've got a trade on IOTA at the minute, and I'll be waiting to see how it behaves from these moving averages as well. So we've got the volume, we've got the cycles, we're making higher lows. Now we need to clear the moving averages. We've seen the shorts get overextended, then have to start to cover. They haven't all covered yet. That can certainly lead to a short squeeze. I'll just show you that quickly, because we did see that really spike up in the past week or so, and they have started to be smacked back down. But if we get any real strength in terms of $100 moves again, that's going to continue to trend lower, guys, and liquidate those shorts. So a couple of things I wanted to leave you with. When everyone's coming out and telling you you're wrong and cheerleading, just keep these numbers in mind. Some of the biggest companies in the world, household names that had declines in the vicinity of 80, 90, 99%, and went on to become good companies in the future. So this is possible. Bitcoin's had these 70 to 90% corrections a number of times. It doesn't mean that the future isn't very, very bright if you believe in this space and the fundamentals. And finally, guys, blocks with a different style here. Show us your blocks. I promised my wife I would mention this competition she has entered us in. So if you want to know more about that, head over to my Facebook page, where I do share a lot of crypto news as well. So that's it for this week, guys. Let's watch these Bitcoin charts close. Let's see if we can get over those moving averages. Very exciting times after what has been a very difficult year. But thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.